in Azerbaijan, mainly to deliberate on the ways to cut carbon emissions. And one of the glaring point which is being discussed in that conference is carbon dioxide emissions set to rise 0.8% this year, and India's contribution to go up by 6%, 4.6%. More so, the global carbon dioxide emissions from land use change, and forestry averaged at 1.1 billion tons of carbon per year. This is the report of Global Carbon Budget. The report has indicated that issue. So now the moot point here is, at any cost, the global temperature should not cross the intended 2 degrees Celsius. Now, of course, and in the Paris Agreement, it has decided not to cross 1.5 degrees centigrade. But at most, it should not cross 2 degrees Celsius. That is the understanding between the developed and developing countries. With that intention, there is every need to have a robust forest cover at a global level to mitigate the effects of the climate change. So with this background, the webinar has been planned. And once again, I thank Dr. Swapnendra Patnaik ji for accepting to deliver, as well as myself also will deliver a part of the webinar. Now I read the biodata of Swapnendra Patnaik ji. And he had obtained BSc Forestry from Orissa University of Agriculture and Technology, Bhubaneswar, MSc Forestry, TNAU Coimbatore, PhD from Bangor University, Bangor. His main area of specialization, expertise, and research interest is specialization in tree improvement and biotechnology, research interest in the field of molecular characterization, evaluation of tree germplasm and molecular genetics. He had 26 years of experience as scientist at Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education. He had 33 publications to his credit. He is a Commonwealth Scholar, ICR Junior Research Scholar. He had a Best Poster Presentation Award as well as a Paper Presentation Award at World Bamboo Conference held in New Delhi in the year 2004. Whereas poster presentation, Plant Sciences Wales Conference, Cardiff 2007. He had many contributions in the research. He has developed vegetative propagation techniques for Bambusa tulda, Bambusa nutans, Bambusa balcona, and Dendrocalamus hamiltoni. Studied population level variations in Dendrocalamus hamiltoni and developed a phylogenetic tree for 10 bamboos belonging to the genus Dendrocalamus using the molecular markers. He has estimated population level diversity in Pterocarpus santalinus using chloroplast DNA markers, as well as optimized air layering technique for clonal propagation of the Pterocarpus santalinus. Estimated pollen dispersal distance and mating system within a clonal seed orchard of Tectona grandis. Prepared DPR for rejuvenation of Godavari River and other important research publications also has many to his credit, like detailed project report for rejuvenation of Godavari River, detailed project report for Godavari River through project through forestry interventions, mitigation of climate change effects in Godavari River basin through forestry interventions, and mating system and gene flow analysis within a clonal seed orchard of Tectona grandis using micro satellite markers, patterns of macrometric variability in Dendrocalamus hamiltoni, Munro populations across East Khasi Hills, Northeast India, molecular evidence for polyphyll in the woody bamboo genus Dendrocalamus. And at present, the assignment which he is holding is National Project Coordinator for All India Coordinator Research Project, that is a project on conservation and productivity improvement of red sanders. And he is the group coordinator of the research at ICFRE IFB. We are very much enthused with your illustrious biodata, Patnaik ji. Thank you very much again for giving your valuable time in spite of your busy schedule at your workplace. I invite all our participating officers from various parts of the southern region as well as union territories. I also invite Dr. Nikita and our team from Mulugu. With this, now we open the webinar. I request Patnaik ji, please take the questions which were posed in the chat box.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for introducing me, and good morning all the participants of this webinar on practices for sustainable forestry sector. I'll take this opportunity actually to thank Dr. Jaganmohan Reddy Garu for giving me this opportunity to deliver this talk on sustainable forest management. So before going on to the presentation, I'll try to answer the questions which have been posed to me actually through this chat box. The first question is how do we control elephants destroying crops actually? As I said, there is no easy solutions. Elephants, they have specific corridors actually, which are called elephant corridors. Over the course of years, we have encroached these corridors actually, Joy. These elephant corridors, because of that, this human-animal conflict has arisen actually. Mostly this areas have been encroached and many mango gardens have come up actually. So because of easy accessibility of these fruits, then elephants are entering into this gardens and destroying the crops. So I think in Kerala, there is some mechanism actually to compensate the farmers actually whenever an elephant is entering into the farm and destroying the crops. But as such, a holistic approach is needed actually to wean away the elephants from these gardens or farms actually. As I said, we have entered into their territory. They are not entering into our territory actually. Hope my answer satisfies the answer of this question actually, Jay. So no easy solution, I would say actually, Jay. So we have to develop holistic approach actually to wean away elephants from these gardens. We have to vacate their lands actually, and we have to make the corridors safe actually. Then the next question, what are the best practices so far available to ensure sustainability in forestry sector? I would say now we have a powerful tool called criteria indicator actually, which are being implemented both in natural forests as well as in plantations. That's a very powerful tool to monitor actually what is happening and which way we should go actually. So even in India, we have developed Indian forest management standards actually. That is nothing but a set of criteria and indicators And our forest departments, Ministry of Environment and Forest, they are in the process of implementing this criteria and indicator actually for sustainably managing our forests. How far forest certification initiatives developed in India can be applied to sustainable forestry practices? As I said, this criteria and indicators is a powerful tool, which is in evolution process actually. There are standards like FSC standard, PEFC standards actually for private forestry. Then for natural forests under government control, we have Indian Forest Management Standards, which are in the process of being implemented actually. Best plans to be cultivated in buffer zone in Western Ghats, especially Kerala. I don't know actually. I have never worked in Western Ghats, so I cannot answer this question. Actually, I'm really sorry about this. Control of wild boar infesting buffer zone. Wild boar, yeah, it's again a problem actually. Human-animal conflict actually. जो है. Our cultivation land are now entering into forest areas actually, because under Forest Rights Act, concessions have been given to farmers. They are now cultivating inside the forest areas, and that is attracting this wild boars actually. Then peacock is also their population, because they are protected animals actually, that they are not cannot be killed actually. So that's why their populations are increasing in many areas actually. In fact, in Deccan Plateau also, in many areas, their population have increased. Some states they have declared this wild boars as vermins actually. So in that way, their population can be controlled by killing them. Otherwise, again, there is no easy solution for this, I would say actually. Peacocks, they are again protected animals. We cannot do anything about it except taking local measures actually, and doing fencing or doing some that nets, using nets actually to control them from entering into our cultivated areas. Those sort of local measures can be also taken. Is there any mechanism where innovations in forestry sector like clonal propagation techniques, tissue culture, etc., can be adopted by farming community for building climate resilience and sustainability? Usually, the more the diverse the forest is, the better it is actually, so far as this sustainability or resilience is concerned. Of course, clonal forestry can be used actually to develop plants which are resistant to pests and diseases, which are tolerant to droughts actually. So there are actually research going on actually in various laboratories, like one of our sister laboratories at Coimbatore. They are trying to develop plants which are which can be grown in salt affected lands actually. So like that way, we can use those lands which are unproductive for using in sustainable forestry actually, because many lands are back end degraded or salt affected. Those lands can be made use of or can be brought into productive functions within sustainable forest management. Clonal forestry also can be useful tool. As I said, the more diverse the forests are, the better it's for the resilience. Clonal forestry limits that divergence actually, limit that diversity. We only propagate a few genotypes which are resistant or it can be grown in difficult conditions. Of course, they can be helpful actually. Latest finding in social forestry, combining conservation of forest, simultaneous generation of revenue for forest dwellers. Yeah, the contribution of a forest to sustainable living of the forest dwellers as well as the forest dependent communities, a lot of data is now generated actually. So their importance is increasingly being realized actually. Earlier, our forest, they were primarily managed for timber production. And now this social aspect, social dimension has been added actually. So meeting the sustainability or sustenance of these forest dwellers and forest dependent communities is also important part of sustainable forest management. Wild animal attack, big problem in Kerala now. Thanks to efforts of EAI, how I found this last very informative. Yes, this conflict is going on actually wherever We have encroached into the forest territory. Actually, this wild animal and human conflict is going on actually, especially in Kerala, a lot of in Tamil Nadu also, in Andhra Pradesh also, around this SSLM area, this mango gardens are being attacked actually by elephants. As I said, some holistic approach is needed actually, that corridors need to be made free actually. They should be allowed to roam freely in their corridors. We should not encroach into their territories by encroaching lands and developing farms actually. Good morning. Myself, Muhammad Jisan Ali, veterinary doctors from Mahbub Nagar, Telangana. Okay. We vets are involved in treating wild animals if injured, conducting post-mortem and dead wild carcass. What should be the role of veterinarian in maintaining sustainability of forest? Like how could vets contribute to this actually? Okay, health of forest is a very important aspect of this sustainable forest management, because in India, cattle roam around and enter into the forest. The cattle diseases are spreading into the wild animals actually. So surveillance is a very important aspect where veterinarians can play important role, and surveillance and proactive management whenever some disease is spreading, because if this domestic animal and wild animals meeting at places, so that can be controlled, and you people can play a very crucial role actually, Joy. If through surveillance it can be detected, then proactive measures should be taken so that it is contained actually, it doesn't spread to whole of the wild population which is there inside the forest area. So you people have a very important role in SFM, I would say. Many forest species in India are on the verge of extinction. Is it not possible to amend the forest laws and grow them in the farm? For example, Punnu roaming around our Tirupati neighborhood giving aromatic oil. I don't know what is this. Punungu Pilli roaming around our Tirupati neighborhood giving aromatic oil. Yeah, there is no doubt actually. Many plants have become endangered actually. Their populations have declined over the years because of encroachment, or because of diversion of forest, or over exploitation is another thing which has made their populations rare actually. We call them rare, endangered, threatened species actually. Populations have declined. So many proactive measures are being taken actually by forest department and research organizations like like IUCN Red List is one organization who is doing assessments actually, actual assessment in the field, trying to find out uh, how many populations are there in the wild and how many individuals are there in each populations. Once that data is there, then those populations can be conserved in situ. Simultaneously, many of the research organizations are taking up research projects for ex situ conservation of those RET species. Like they are developing gene conservation stands outside its natural range. Recently, we were involved in a project in Syzygium alternifolium, which is an endangered species and endemic only to that Sessachalam hills of Tirupati. We have developed one ex situ gene conservation stand in Hyderabad. Actually, we have collected germplasm from the natural areas. Then we have established a gene conservation stand in Hyderabad. Of course, we had to face many issues like this species is facing a disease problem in nursery, actually severe disease problem that we are trying to solve actually using through research mechanisms. And that ex situ conservation we are able to do. So likewise, many research organizations are doing this ex situ conservation, and also we are trying to conserve this lesser known species uh, through seed gene banking. Recently, ICAFRE is working on a forest genetic resource conservation project where over 200 lesser known species. Of course, we have some species which are commercially important. There are many species for which the commercial aspects are not exploited yet. Actually, they are not used commercially, but they have importance actually from medicinal point of view, from small timber point of view, for climatic protection point of view. So we are now conserving their seed germplasm at low temperatures. We have created facilities actually, minus 20 degrees storage facilities where their germplasm are being stored actually. So these measures are being taken. I'm sure many universities are also working on these aspects also. It's a big problem here. Just wanted to know whether sensors and culling up excess animals is considered. Yes, actually, whenever this wild animal and human conflict arises, actually, some states that declare particular wild animals as vermins, actually. So through that, the culling operations also takes place. So that depends on the concerned state forest department. They can declare the particular animal as a vermin and take control measures actually to contain their populations. Uh, what are the key traits to be looked for which breeding trees for climate? Yeah, climate resilience trees is what now we are aiming at actually through tree breeding. Like drought tolerant trees, because climate change is a real thing actually. Uh, Somewhere it's going to rain excessively, we'll have waterlogged conditions, and elsewhere we will have drought conditions. So we have to breed trees which will be withstanding this extreme climate conditions, like breeding trees for drought conditions so that they can sustain, they can withstand this low soil moisture conditions. So a lot of work is happening actually both in crops as well as in trees also. Hopefully will be develop actually some breeds or some varieties so which will be able to withstand these conditions, and which will be able to provide us the benefits which we are getting now from the crops actually, from the plants right now actually. So in future, I think those plants will be of tremendous use actually uh, for the survival of human beings in our. So the next conversation, research point of view, what kind of standard sampling to be carried out to enumerate the individuals of plant tree species whose distribution is highly scattered and declining in the wild, where random and stratified sampling is of no use. Kindly suggest actually. Okay. Actually, this random sampling is of no use actually when the populations are rare actually. There we take up purposive sample actually, Jay. To identify the populations, then we try to uh, develop quadrats or put quadrats and assess their populations. Or in case of very rare species, we try to enumerate actually, identify the population and enumerate the individuals by counting their numbers without doing any quadrats actually, if they are of a limited area and limited size in populations. Again, some kind of a purposive sampling is required actually. Random sampling will not help in this case. Kunungu pili dhirara animal is produced in aromatic. I am not sure actually what is this actually. Maybe Reddy sir can help me with this actually, this question.
Yeah, what his intention is, that is the one tree from which aromatic oil is extracted to do the abhishekam for the Lord Venkateshwara. So that carries a lot of valued aromatic oil that is extracted from that plant.
What is the scientific name actually? Is it a tree species or
Yeah,
herbaceous?
that is the common name. Common name, that is.
What is the scientific
Common
name of
name.
this species?
Scientific name, probably, I think he has to tell those who has asked the question. Sannapati, who is that? May I get the attention? Okay, okay, sir. We will discuss later that
Right,
one.
sir.
Now,
Right, sir.
so now we go with the main present. Dr. Nikita, do you have any question?
Sir, thank you, sir, for the invite, and thank you, sir, Patnaik, sir, for answering all the questions. So, thank you once again, and I don't have any questions, sir.
Yeah, okay.
I want to listen to the
Okay,
presentation.
okay. Yeah, I request all of you, please switch on your videos. We can have a snap. All of you, please. Sorry, I shared. Sir, could you unshare for a while so that we can have a group photo?
Right. I haven't shared it.
Thank you. So please, those who are on board, please switch on your videos.
So I am unable
that
to switch on my video. There is some issue actually.
Okay,
Right?
sir.
It's showing failed to start the video camera. Again, I restarted already. Actually, it's not solving the issue.
Okay.
So I will go without my photo, I think.
Yeah. The others, please switch on your videos. Those are on board, please make it fast. We have two presentations. Others, please. Yeah, Rajgaru.
Sir, तीसरा sir one.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Is it okay?
Okay, sir. Done.
Right. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Patnaik ji, please go ahead with the presentation.
Yes, sir. Just give me a minute. I'll share my
Yeah.
presentation. Is my presentation visible?
Yeah, it's visible, sir. Visible.
Right. Welcome back. Actually, welcome all the participants. I thank Dr. Jaganmohan Reddy Garu. So let's get started. Actually, sustainable forest management, as you know, it's a universal accepted concept actually that guides our forest policies and practices both worldwide and even in India also. We are now trying to follow this concept. In fact, it's an overarching approach actually to forest management that can be applied to various forest types regardless of their management objectives. And it's a very flexible concept. In fact, actually, as you some of you might be aware that we have many forest types in India, and we have also communities that are belonging to different socio-economic aspects. So all these things can be taken into account and under this concept actually, which is very flexible. And forest trees, when sustainably managed, they can make very vital contributions actually, both to people and to the planet by bolstering livelihoods, then providing us clean air and water, then conserving biodiversity, and also they are very potent actually so far as responding to climate change is concerned. And managing forest sustainably, what does it mean? It means optimizing their benefits actually to meet the needs of the present generation, as well as to meet the needs of the future generations. As you know, our forests are not increasing actually. Their area is constant. So that they need to be managed in such a way that we optimize the benefit that is derived from it, so that we meet the present generation, and the requirements of the future generation, which is also increasing day by day. Right now, we have 8 billion people worldwide actually, and that is also projected to increase over 9 billion actually over the next 20 to 30 years by 2050. So our forest in that way is not increasing. Their land is limited. What we can do is we can manage them efficiently so that the products and services we get, that will be continued for the future generation. So a lot of progress has been made actually at the conceptual level, like this sustainable forest management is a concept actually. There are no clear-cut concrete guidelines actually, evolving concept actually, flexible, and its implementation remains variable actually, especially in tropics, where the capacity is to enforce this SFM policies, laws, and regulations are uneven actually. It all depends on the government actually, the promulgation and implementation of policies, so which is quite variable actually. So, so sustainable forest management is a kind of a holistic approach actually that integrates many sectors and stakeholders. It's not a single technique or single practice. It's a kind of a bouquet consisting of laws, policies governing land management, land tenures, then intersectoral partnership, best practices, silvicultural tool. Then it takes into consideration indigenous traditional knowledge. Then there are also finance mechanisms that are also part of SFM actually. So all these things combined, they aim at managing our forest in such a way that we meet the needs of the present generation as well as the future generation. So that is what SFM broadly means actually, Joy. This is the my structure of presentation. First, we'll see the ecosystem services which we derive from forest actually, some statistics about ecosystem services. Then we'll see what definition says about sustainable forest management. Then we see how the forest management has evolved actually over the years into the sustainable forest management. Then we'll see how it can be implemented at different geographic scales and what sort of integrated multi-sectoral approach is needed actually. Then we'll see the role of SFM in achieving 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Then we'll see some techniques or tools to monitor the progress, like criteria and indicators, which I have responded just now to a question actually, which is emerging as a powerful tool actually to monitor and monitor the progress of this implementation of SFM. Then we'll see some silvicultural tools actually, which can be considered as part of this implementation of SFM. Then we'll see what are the innovations that are in place and what more innovations are needed actually for this sustainable forest management to happen actually. So we'll move on actually. So before delving into the details about SFM, let's have a look at the goods and services that we humans derive from forests. The United Nations, they define ecosystem services as the benefits people derive from forest ecosystem. So forest ecosystem services, they can be grouped into 4 categories, that is supporting services, provisioning services, regulating services, and cultural services. Supporting services, as the name indicate, make other 3 services from forest possible actually. They are the enablers for other ecosystem services. So let's have a look at these services one by one. So supporting services, we have forest support healthy soils actually. Healthy soils, they comprise right mix of mineral soils, then organic matter, or microscopic organisms that help the nutrient cycling. Then forest also support for photosynthesis. That's a process by which the plants generate energy for their growth and development. And in the process, they absorb carbon dioxide and other toxic gases from atmosphere and release oxygen. Then they also help in nutrient recycling. And forests, they provide the habitat for wildlife or biodiversity, what they're called nowadays. So they provide the area for plants, animals, birds, insects, microbes that grow and complete their life cycles. So this is a very important actually service, which are enablers for other types of services actually, like provisioning services. Provisioning services are nothing but the services to which we can put a valuation actually in terms of money. These are the direct benefits which we derive from forest and which can be valued in terms of money. So far as food is concerned from forests, we derive fruits, then edible leaves, flowers, tubers, then honey, mushrooms, then wild meat is a part of food which we derive from the forest. Then we derive fodder actually for our cattles, which used as feed for boosting milk production and meat production in the agriculture sector. Then also we derive timbers actually, industrial grade timbers, route timbers, which are used for making furnitures and in other industrial uses. We have NTAPs like gums and resins, barks, nuts, tubers, honeys. Then they also provide the wood fuel actually, which is considered a renewable resources actually. A sizable population, world population depends on this wood fuel actually for their cooking purpose, for the heating actually, especially in temperate countries. Population depend on this wood fuel for generating heat actually, to counteract the cold climate effects. And they also provide us clean water actually. And this particular graph you can see actually, this is showing a valuation of the benefits which you are deriving from the forest. It puts a value at around 576 billion USD, that is 57,600 crores in terms of money actually, annual benefits that is being derived actually from this provisioning services. Then coming on to the regulating services, they are intangible. Unlike the provisioning services, there are no mechanisms to value them in terms of money actually. So economists are trying actually to figure out how to value these services. Some progress has been made, but a lot of work is being going on actually. So mostly they are intangible, of great economic value, maybe a potentially great economic value. So clean air, through process of photosynthesis, as I've already mentioned, actually, the plants absorb carbon dioxide, then nitrous oxides, ammonia, then sulfur dioxide, and through their stomata, and they clean up our environment actually, and give us oxygen. Forests regulate soil erosion and floods. Actually, forests in catchment areas, they break the force of rains, and most of the rain they percolates into the ground. And later on, they recharge our groundwater bodies and surface water bodies like rivers. Actually, so erosion is controlled because of this forests actually in the catchment area. So far as clean water is concerned, there is a study actually, New York City actually, they get their water from rivers which are very far off, actually some 200 kilometers away. So they have entered into agreements with the land owners actually. In USA, they have this private forestry concept actually. So a sizable chunk of forest areas are in the hands of private owners, but private owners are being compensated actually for retaining forests on the land, so that this ecosystem service of clean water can be derived by the populations, like in New York actually. So they are ideally compensated actually. They are not given a free hand to cut the forestry, or as per their whims and fancies they cannot manage actually. So they have to retain their forests on the lands, and so for that purpose they are being compensated. Then forests harbor natural enemies and predators for various agriculture pests. And the most important of regulating services is pollination actually, which all of you are aware actually. Without pollinators, most of our crops will fail, and there will be a food scarcity, will be facing a food security in fact. So this all of you will be aware actually. So this is kind of a regulating, these are the regulating service we derive from our forest lands. And of course, there is cultural services actually, like it helps in our physical and mental well-being. Then it creates, promotes tourism actually, and helps us in our recreational activities. Then it inspires our poets, then writers, for even the painters actually to create something good, actually something good about nature. Then also it's a great place actually for knowledge and learning for researchers like us actually. So we do a lot of research activity on forest and try to generate knowledge actually on ecosystems and forests and trees actually. So this is the slide that shows uh, the requirements actually, present wood requirements, wood and wood fuel requirements. And it's projected to increase actually by like current wood demand, industrial wood demand is around 2.04 billion cubic meter industrial wood or round wood actually. That is projected to increase by 49% by 2050. Likewise, our wood fuel requirement is 1.97 billion. According to an estimate, there are 2.4 billion people, they are dependent on this wood fuel actually for various purposes like cooking and heating water, all those things. And that is projected to increase by 37%, 17 to 37% by 2050. So as I said, our forest area is limited, but our requirements are going to increase actually, projected to increase. So the contribution from this wood-based forest sectors is around 600 billion. Non-wood forest sector is around 88 billion USD. Then informal production, which is not taken into account, which there is no record actually of this informal production of wood fuel and other small timbers and fuel woods. Informal sector also it contributes around 33 billion. So there are no records actually, formal records as in formal sectors. And forest sectors is a very important employer actually. Almost 13.3 million people are engaged actually. They get employment in formal sector. And in informal sectors, there are over 41 million people they are engaged in forest sector. So this is a kind of statistics actually, which we have to take into consideration for managing our forests sustainably actually, so that whatever we are able to, whatever the needs we are able to meet now, the needs of the future also need to be met from the same area of the forest through efficient management, efficient management of those forest areas actually. So this is how United Nations describe sustainable forest management. It says that it's a dynamic and evolving concept, aims to maintain and enhance the economic, social, and environmental values of all types of forest for the benefit of present and future generation. Okay, so it takes into the three aspects of development, that is economic development from forests, social development of the dependent communities, and the environmental values. That is very important nowadays because of this climate change point of view. So all these things have to be taken care by our forest actually. So our management should be such that we have to take care of all these three aspects. So SFM can be viewed as a sustainable use and conservation of forests with the aim of maintaining and enhancing multiple values through human interventions. So we cannot leave our forests as such actually. We have to manage them sustainably. So people are at the center of SFM because it aims to contribute to society's diverse needs and perpetuity. So earlier, our forests, they were primarily managed for timber purpose actually. We were not bothered about this social dimension or environmental dimension. So now that the situation has been changed actually, and the people have, the population of world has increased So you have to think the forest management in a different angle actually. We have seen in the previous slides how forests perform multiple functions and deliver multiple goods and services. I would say National Forest Policy 1988 is a watershed moment for Indian forestry. Till that time, sustainable forestry meant sustainable timber production. Only we are aiming at timber production actually. So our forests were primarily managed for the purpose of timber production, without giving much importance to their contribution to social, cultural, and environmental values. Then implementation of this NFP 1988 changed all this actually. So at this point of time, all green fellings were stopped. Paper mills and wood industries, they were told to raise their raw materials, to meet their demands actually. Whatever their needs, they have to raise from outside the forest areas. So import of timber, then wood products, including paper pulp, that was relaxed. So most of the industries, they started importing actually. And they also started captive plantation or social forestry, farm forestry schemes actually. And before this, after this implementation of National Forest Policy 88, emphasis shifted towards conservation and protection of biodiversity. But the question now is how to conserve forest when billions of people are dependent on it for their subsistence and for their living actually. That is very important actually. We cannot put our forest under lock and key, because there are tribal population who live inside the forest, and there are communities in the fringe villages. They live in fringe villages, but they are dependent on the forest for their livelihood. So SFM was conceptualized for optimizing production from forest while meeting the social and environmental obligations. So this is how the SFM actually evolved actually, from sustainable forestry. Earlier it used to be called as sustainable forestry. Now it is coined as sustainable forest management. So we are optimizing production from forest to meet the social as well as environmental obligations also, besides the timber requirement. So SFM has emerged as a tool actually, in fact, in negotiating such trade-offs actually, and interests among various ecological and social conditions through participatory approach. So participatory approach again is a technique actually which SFM uses actually to bring various stakeholders together and negotiate among these stakeholders, then decide the primary functions and secondary functions. So this participatory approach is very important aspect of sustainable forest management. While negotiating among the various stakeholders, it also takes into account the available scientific knowledge as well as state-of-the-art technologies for managing the forests in sustainably. This is the slide that shows the features of SFM actually. As I already informed, it's a dynamic concept actually, aims at adaptive management as per the local biodiversity and socio-economic dependence of local communities. So policies are made at national level or global level, but simultaneously the local conditions are also taken into consideration while developing management practices. So it adopts landscape approach, integrating policies and practices of multiple land uses within a given area to ensure sustainable use of land. It's not about the forest only, but about other land uses surrounding the forest. That's called landscape approach. So integrating policies in all those sectors, both in agriculture sector, then rural development sector, forestry sector, integrates the policies and practices that are present in these sectors, so that this area can be sustainably managed from an overall point of view. It adopts a participatory approach involving various stakeholders like state and local authorities, then extension agencies, then forest dependent communities. We have NGOs also, private sector entities. So it's are trying to develop some kind of business actually based on forest products. Then research and academic organizations, forest managers. So all these things, all these stakeholders, they are taken on board actually while deciding the management practices for a local forest type. And also, as you are aware that forest dependent communities or the tribals, they are living in these forest areas for generations actually. They have developed their indigenous traditional knowledge on forest. So that thing also taken on board actually while developing policies or practices for local forest management. So moving on actually, so as you know, actually, support is needed from the other sectors actually for implementation of this sustainable forest management policies. You are aware that the significant progress which have been made in agriculture sector it's because of last 50 years, we have made a very significant amount of progress in agriculture sector, but at the loss of forests, actually, our forests have been diverted actually for agricultural lands. Lands have been degraded. Then loss of biodiversity has happened. Loss of wildlife habitat has happened, and all these have been sacrificed actually for development of agriculture sector. And various macroeconomic policies actually from like policies that affect our forest sectors actually. Then competition of land use, competition from other land uses like agriculture, mining, infrastructure development, roads, railways lines, transmission lines, all these affect actually. All these are large drivers actually which affect forest sectors. And so SFM is trying to coordinate actually all these other sectors actually so that the resources can be managed efficiently without the diversion of forest lands or land degradation, forest land degradation, minimizing the lands actually. Of course, some developments have happened actually, like roads, railway lines, transmission lines, all these are developments actually, human development that has to happen actually. We cannot stop that. But integrated development, integrated management is what is looked at actually, so that minimizing, that will minimize losses to our forest sectors, forest areas, that will minimize losses to our biodiversity. So integrating policies is what is that is put emphasis actually in SFM, Sustainable Forest Management. Integration of course various sectors, adopting cross-sectoral and coherent approaches, moving towards sustainability. So this is what is required actually. Support from other sectors is required actually. Forests are not alone managed, and we can derive the benefits for this burgeoning populations. So integrated management is what is a theme under this sustainable forest management. And as I said, this is implemented at various scales actually. Like at the global and national scales, goal setting is done to conserve and sustain and manage all types of forest. Here we set up broad goals actually, like climate change mitigation or biodiversity conservation, without taking into consideration the local variabilities or local factors actually. The broad goals are set at the national level. At the state and landscape level, goal setting is done through planning process involving all stakeholders. Like I said, various stakeholders are there. starting from government agencies to NGOs to local inhabitants. All those are taken into consideration, taken on board for setting up goal setting. Then at forest management unit scale, that is usually a forest compartment is considered at the lowest management unit actually. SFM is implemented by taking into considerations specific objectives actually, by setting up specific objective, taking into account local conditions, ecological and social variabilities. Then for the within the management unit, in the forest management unit, we develop working plans actually. We take into consideration the crop type, that species that are available. Then we develop working plans actually for their management, for the silvicultural management, so that the productivity is maximized actually per unit of land. So here we consider silviculture characteristics. Then we have silvicultural tools actually to maximize production from forest stands. So at various levels, goal setting is done and they are implemented to maximize goods and services from those forest lands. So coming to role of sustainable management towards achieving 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Some of you might be aware actually about this 2030 agenda for sustainable development. It's a plan of action for people, for planet, and for posterity, for our posterity. Altogether, this world leaders, they have decided 17 goals and 169 targets actually that have been set actually to transform the world by 2030. So forests are linked to SDG 15 actually, that is life on land. But there have been profound linkages have been found between forests and many other goals and targets like poverty, hunger, climate change mitigation, biodiversity conservation. So they're linked to forest actually, that is SDG 15. So I think scientists are now they are envisaging this SDG 17 goals in terms of a wedding cake actually, and like a wedding cake, there are different layers actually, and this SDG can be fit into different layer. At the bottom layer, we have biosphere, where this SDG 15, life on land, SDG 14, life below water, clean water and sanitation, and climate change, that is SDG 13, they form the bottom base. What they argue is that if this bottom base is taken care, all other goals will be automatically taken care. That is the other goals that pertain to certain societal requirements and economic requirements, that will be automatically taken care. So what they argue is that the base should be solid. Our natural resources should be managed sustainably so that it will give a solid foundation for other goals to be met. So instead of achieving the goals individually, so they have to be worked in a collective manner for strengthening the base. All those goals which require strengthening at the base, like the forest actually, they need to be sustainably managed. Then only other goals can easily be attained actually. Coming to the role of sustainable development, role of SFM in economic development, sustainable forest management usually aims at balancing annual increment with annual wood removal from forest. So I think forestry, we use this increment term actually. Trees, they grow annually, and whatever biomass they produce in a year, that is called as annual increment. So our forests should be such managed that they should not exceed this annual yield actually, annual increment. And if you are increasing this yield or harvest from the forest greater than the wood increment, wood annual increment, then it's going to affect the ecosystem services, and it will affect the regeneration capacity of the forest. And if you are removing lesser than that, actually, the biomass, if you are removing lesser biomass than what is produced in a year, then we are not utilizing the full potential capacity of the forest. So we should be managing our forest in such a way that the balance is maintained. Whatever is being produced, equal amount is being taken out. Actually, the both goods and this round woods or fuel woods, they are taken out. So because they can be regenerated again. Actually, this is a very important concept. Actually, so far as climate change point of view. Actually, as you know, forests are they are carbon sinks actually, and trees and forests, when they are young, they grow at a faster rate, absorb more carbon dioxide. But once the forests mature, their growth slows down actually. Their absorbing capacity, carbon dioxide absorbing capacity comes down. And if those trees are harvested, which are over mature, actually, they are not able to grow faster, or they have attained their full growth. If they are not removed from the forest area, they will be occupying space. Actually, we are not utilizing the forest area to their full potential so far as carbon dioxide sequestration is concerned. Actually, so once those trees are harvested, actually, regeneration comes up again. New trees comes up. They again start this photosynthesis process and absorb more amount of carbon from the atmosphere. So this continuity is maintained actually, and we utilize the potential of forest as carbon sink actually. And what happens to the harvested wood actually? As long as they are they are used industries and areas like in furnitures, that carbon is trapped actually. Carbon is stored in those wood for hundreds of years. As long as those woods are not burnt actually, the carbon is locked actually in those wood. So we are helping this cause actually. The forests and trees are helping this cause even after they are felling also. Only when the woods are burned, the carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Like fuel wood we are burning, they are released into the atmosphere. But the round wood which are used in furniture, house construction, there the carbon dioxide is trapped actually for hundreds of years. So for this economic development, optimum economic development of forest, a lot of investment is required actually. As you know, forest and wood production is a long generation process actually. It takes a long period of time. So private sectors are not coming forward for investment actually. So there we need to have mechanisms actually when where we both have investments from governments as well as private sectors, so that this economic utilization of forest can be enhanced, and at the same point of time, more number of employments can be generated, livelihood improvements can be achieved. Then this forest can be used as a safety nets actually, and for greater environmental conservation purpose. So these things need to happen actually. More investment is what is required actually, because of the long generation time and the risks involved actually. Because the investments they are done for over a long period of time, and over that period the requirements might change actually. So there's an element of risk actually in those investments. So that's why it's not able to attract investments. So far as role of SFM in social development is concerned, beyond the products and services that forests provide, they significantly contribute to rural livelihoods and food security, which is already well documented. They act as a source of food and medicine and fuel wood for more than billions of peoples. And it's estimated that more than 1/3 of world population, they are dependent on forest for wood fuel. So our approach should be people-centric actually, Joy. So SFM concept takes all these things into account through aspects like social inclusion in forest management. We involve people like local inhabitants in management of forest, then fairness, then access to forests and rights, worker safety and health, then respect for labor rights, gender equity, conflict management. All these things are taken into account in the broader concept of sustainable forest management. All these concepts are given adequate attention and they are provisioned in national legislations. Then forest certification standards, the FSC standards, then the Indian National Forest Standards, they also take all these aspects of SFM into consideration actually. Some of you might be aware actually about joint forest management in Indian forest actually. This came into policy in the National Forest Policy, came into practice after implementation of National Forest Policy 1988. Here I think forest JFMC committees have been formed actually at village levels, where the village communities, they become members of these JFMC committees, and they get involved actually in the protection and management of nearby forest areas. They are involved actually, in fact, and in return actually the village communities, they get some concessions like for collecting national NTFP, non-timber forest produce, collection of fuel wood, collection of fodder. So all the benefits that is generated from the forest area, from that chunk of forest area, that is equally shared among this JFMC committee members. So this is again a concept actually which is ingrained in sustainable forest management. We are involving the inhabitants, forest inhabitants, and the communities, forest dependent communities in the management of forest. Coming to the role of this SFM in nutrition, food and nutrition security, we are already know actually it plays a very crucial role actually. In fact, for forest communities, it acts as a safety net actually. Whenever their crops fail because of drought or because of flood, they fall back on forest actually for their food and nutrition security. So forests also provide us this ecosystem services like water regulation, soil protection, nutrient cycling, pollination, pest control. All these things we already covered, I think, in earlier slide. So far as SFM and this climate change is concerned, how forests affect climate change, or how climate affect forests actually. It's a both-way process actually. Forests affect climate by removing this large amount of carbon dioxide. Forests affect climate by removing and releasing carbon. Forests also, through their respiration process, they also release carbon actually. Depending on how it is managed, actually, they can be either net sink or net source of carbon. If the forests are sustainably managed, then they can be net sinks actually. They can absorb more amount of carbon. If they are not managed actually, at some point of time, they will become source of carbon, because this respiration process, forest degradation, then all these things, they contribute carbon to the atmosphere. Then forest, they cool atmosphere actually through evapotranspiration. Then they cloud forming aerosols also they form actually. Then they also reflect solar radiation. This is how forests affect climate. On the other hand, the climate affects forests productivity and dynamics by the regulating effect on air temperatures, rainfall, then atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide and solar radiation. So it's a both-way process actually. And this climate change is making forests more vulnerable actually to abiotic and biotic stressors like fire and pests actually. And it is predicted that more extent of forests is going to be affected actually because of this frequent and intense fires. Then water availability will be issue actually in some areas. So it's not going to be uniformly affecting all forest areas. So there will be variability actually. Forest productivity is likely to increase actually in a higher temperature due to higher concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But that is only temporarily actually. Once the carbon dioxide saturation is reached actually, then the productivity is going to decrease. And all these things will again depend on the availability of moisture in the soil actually, water availability or drought conditions. That will depend whether the productivity. Sir.
సార్ అది కట్ అయినట్టుంది సార్ డైరెక్టర్ సార్ అదే
Hello. Yeah, Patnaik ji.
కట్ అయినట్టుంది సార్ అది
Hello. Yeah, there is some network problem maybe.
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, sir. Now it's okay.
Yeah, there was a power failure actually. I'm really sorry for that actually.
Okay.
So I'm reconnected now.
Please share the screens.
Okay, just a moment. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's okay.
So what I was talking about is climate change. Forests are going to play a very significant role in climate change mitigation and adaptation. Our world forests, they are a big carbon storage actually. In fact, 662 gigatons of carbon is stored in living biomass in world forests. Then another 677 gigatons of carbon is there in soils. Then 165 gigatons of deadwood litter actually. The carbon is there locked in the deadwood and litter. So it's a big carbon storage actually, carbon sequestration and carbon storage. These forests are acting actually. And this can be increased actually if our forests are managed sustainably. This potential of capture more amount of carbon from atmosphere can be increased actually. Potential can be improved actually by sustainably managing the forest actually. In fact, around 2.6 billion tons of carbon dioxide is released from the atmosphere, and one third of it is because of this burning of the fossil fuel, and forests are absorbing them actually, and they are acting as a very big sinks. And but there is a trend that over the 30 years we have lost this carbon stock actually, which is stored in the forest because of diversion of forests uh, to various other land uses and degradation of the forest. The present stock can be improved actually through sustainable forest management. That is how it is going to play a very crucial role, uh, this sustainable forest management. And biodiversity, as you know, is the sum total of all living organisms that are present on Earth actually. So SFM as such actually ensures adequate area actually for protection of this biodiversity. There are forests actually which are specifically maintained for biodiversity conservation point of view. Then there are also through this SFM actually the concept is there in the products and forests also specific areas are identified where there are rare, endangered, and threatened species, and additional protection is given. And in the production forest also, we adopt some kind of a low impact logging actually. So that reduces impact on soil and other microbes, other organisms. So that way, this SFM practices, low impact logging, that's also SFM practices that can improve biodiversity conservation. Sustainable forest management can also enhance this soil and water conservation services for forest actually. If our forests are healthy, then this soil and water can be conserved more efficiently. And if we adopt low impact logging actually in forest areas, that also will preserve our soils actually and prevent soil erosion. And this sustainable forest management, they prescribes actually critical areas like watersheds or mangroves, where their primary function is aimed at conservation actually. So that conserved more efficiently soil. Private forests are there, then there's land managers need to be, or landowners or managers need to be compensated actually adequately. So SFM has that provision actually to compensate those landowners and managers, so that that particular chunk of area which is lying in the ecological fragile zone can be managed for protection purpose only. So that will enhance this soil and water conservation. And Dr. Reddy was talking about this Paris Agreement 2015 under UNFCCC. It's a landmark agreement which was reached among the world leaders. Here, the world leaders, they recognized the role of forest in removing greenhouse gases from atmospheres. So forests have been given a lot of emphasis. It has brought into the center stage actually in the global fight against climate change. And two instruments actually that have been brought in actually. One is RED, the other one is RED Plus, reducing emission from deforestation and forest degradation. And the second one is a RED Plus, that is reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation and conserving and enhancing the carbon stocks. First one talks about only reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Second one goes one step ahead actually, conserving, enhancing the carbon stocks. So here the role of SFM comes into play, how to increase the efficiency of our forests so that they can absorb more amount of carbon actually. So these two instruments have been brought in actually under this Paris agreements. and the countries they have to declare their contribution actually, that is called NDCs, nationally determined contributions, in their efforts to reduce national emissions and adapt to impacts of climate change actually. So India has committed actually to create additional 2.5 through 5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent carbon sink actually. So for that purpose, it has to create additional uh, trees and forest cover, both inside forest as well as outside the forest cover actually, so that a sink is created to absorb 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. This is what India has committed in Paris Agreement. So government of India is taking a more proactive stage actually, not only to enhance the areas under forest, forests outside the trees outside the forest, but also putting a lot of emphasis on sustainable management actually, so that more carbon sink is created actually. Then another tool in this sustainable forest management which has emerged over the last decade is criteria indicators. In fact, it's a very powerful tool actually, used to define, guide, monitor, and assess the forest towards SFM. As you know, SFM is a continuous process actually. There is no spelled out guidelines actually. It's adaptive actually. It changes over the period of time. So whether we are moving towards a more sustainable forest, or degrading towards degraded forest actually, how to monitor that actually. So for that purpose, this criteria and indicators have been brought in actually. In fact, this was pioneered by International Tropical Timber Organization, that is ITO actually. They started it first during 1990s actually. Then we have now certification agencies like FSC, Forest Stewardship Council, then program for the endorsement of forest certification. They have developed this C&Is actually for private forests actually. Mostly for European countries, American countries, where private forestry is more prevalent actually. In India, mostly forests are under government control actually. Of course, now trees outside the forest are being promoted actually to meet both timber, fuel wood, and other requirements. So some of the private forestry landowners, they have now resorted to this certification, C&I certifications actually, like JK Paper Mills is there, then ITC Bhadrachalam, they have adopted this certification actually. They are raising their farm forest actually in large chunks of lands actually in private sector, in farmers' lands actually. So those forests are now being certified by these agencies to be sustainable actually. This is very important actually, so that the users of the products which are derived from this forest, they will have a guarantee that it has come from a sustainable managed forest actually. And as I said, Indian government has also developed Indian forest management standards. That is also a framework of criteria and indicators and verifiers for monitoring SFM practices. Criteria is nothing but categories of conditions or processes by which SFM can be assessed. Then indicators, each criterion is characterized by a set of indicators. There are criteria, then each criteria is characterized by a set of indicators that can be monitored to assess change over a time. Then verifiers are nothing but data or information associated with indicators that verifies its status or change over time actually. In this slide, I'm trying to show what are the criteria that has been developed for the Indian forest management standards actually. These are the 8 criteria actually, like maintenance, increase in the extent and the condition of forest and tree cover. Then second one is maintenance, conservation, enhancement of forest biodiversity, including wildlife. Third one, like maintenance, enhancement of forest health, vitality, together with the establishment of regeneration, soil and water conservation, maintenance and enhancement of forest resource productivity, optimization of forest resource utilization, maintenance and enhancement of soil, social, economic, and cultural benefits, adequacy of policy, legal, and institutional frameworks. So these are the 8 criteria. Then each criteria has a set of indicators. Like first criteria, maintenance and increase in the extent and condition of forest and tree cover has about 10 indicators. Then they have 5 verifiers actually. Data is generated in these 5 verifiers, which based on that the indicators are assessed actually whether they are being maintained towards implementation of as per the sustainable forest management standards or not actually. So this way a assessment is done actually using this criteria and indicators, which tries to find out lacunas that are in place actually, or whether we are doing the things at the right level or right practices are being done to maintain our forest and optimize the productivity of our forest actually. Then we'll move on to the silvicultural aspects actually. Silvicultural practices that can be considered as part of sustainable forest management actually. Under Paris Agreement, India has committed to create carbon sinks. That means we have to create additional forest areas actually. And 2 different techniques are used, silvicultural techniques. One is called afforestation, the other one is called reforestation. Afforestation is nothing but establishing new forest lands actually that were not there before actually, like abundant agriculture, barren lands, degraded lands. So you are creating a forest, new forest areas, or in wastelands actually, which are lying barren for a long period of time. We are planting actually, either we are raising seedlings and planting them, or dibbling seeds there actually to generate a new forest actually, afresh. Whereas reforestation is another silvicultural tool actually, which is used to restock destroyed forest actually, or logged over forest. Here, either we depend on natural regeneration, which is there already in the soils, seeds which are there already in the soils, or we tend the damaged trees actually. We try to coppice the root stocks, all those things, or we try to afresh, try to plant seedlings actually to regenerate or restock the forest. So these 2 tools we use actually as part of the sustainable forest management practices actually. Then there are other tools like selective harvesting actually. Like I said, we cannot keep our trees in perpetuity actually, because forests, they have to meet a different function, both productive as well as protective functions. If we are retaining the trees for a longer period of time, their ability to absorb carbon dioxide from atmosphere comes down once they become mature or over mature. So those trees need to be harvested actually. So what we do is we adopt something called selective harvesting actually, where the dead, dying moribund trees or mature trees are harvested actually, and minimum number of trees, sweet trees are retained, vigorous trees are retained actually, so that continuity of ecosystem services will be achieved. And we use annual increment as a guide actually, how much is produced, how much biomass is produced in that unit of forest actually, and how much can be removed actually. So that we try to balance using this selective harvesting technique. Then another technique, another tool that is used, silvicultural tool that is used is canopy opening actually. Like in dense forest areas, there is very little chance for new regeneration to come up actually. So for that purpose, in order to improve the regeneration, in order to create space for the growing seedlings, saplings, and poles, some trees are sacrificed actually, so that more space is created, sunlight falls through to the ground, so that this regeneration can establish themselves. So canopy opening, selective harvesting are silvicultural tools. They are part of SFM. Then this reduced impact logging is another tool actually. Here, careful planning is done actually. Careful planning and harvesting is done to minimize their impact on the soils and other biodiversity of the forest area. Like pre-harvest forest inventory, then planning for roads, skid trails, then directional felling, winching, then yarding systems that protect the soils, and post-harvest assessment. All these things are very carefully planned to minimize their impact on soils and other biodiversity. Then prescribed fire is another silvicultural tool, which is prescribed actually for achieving sustainable forest management. Here, intentional fires is used actually to clear roads, tracks, compartment boundaries, then clearings between forests to prevent large fires from spreading from one compartment to another compartment actually. So in order to contain the fires, because sometimes fires also happens naturally because of lightning, forest catches fires. So in order to contain those fires within a compartment, these things are prescribed well ahead of fire season actually. So that if fire happens at one place, it will be contained within that compartment without spreading onto the next compartment. So ground fires are intentionally created actually to reduce fire loads, then improve regeneration of certain fire dependent species like red sanders. Their seeds require some kind of fire burn, then only they regenerate actually. And control of ground fire also helps in faster recycling. So this is another silvicultural tools actually, which helps in achieving sustainable forest management. Then rotational grazing also. This grazing, a lot of pressure is there on Indian forests actually. Sometimes it is unavoidable, but there are some techniques like assessing carrying capacity of forest, then dividing the areas actually so that grazing can happen rotationally, not throughout the year, restricting to part of the year. Then whenever there is regeneration is happening or young plantations are there, those areas are restricted for grazing actually, prevented or closed for grazing. Then the communities are encouraged actually because it's a because in SFM we are involving the community participation. Their awareness is raised actually about this regeneration, protection of this rare endangered species. Then stall feeding is encouraged actually. So all these things are also taken care of in SFM. Then we also do something kind of sustainable harvesting of non-wood forest produce, like gum and resin is one thing actually where the sustainable harvesting is required. I have seen plants have been gargled actually in order to extract gum and resin from them, but that is not sustainable. It kills the plant within a few years. If sustainable production of gum and resins is required, scientific harvesting, scientific blazing is required actually, and those blazes can be cleared each year, and it will have least damage. It will least damage to the plant, and the productivity can be continued sustainably. Likewise, bark removal. This we have experimented in one of our projects actually. Narrow strips of bark removal, like in Swamida februtuga, the bark is used for extraction of tannins. If you are removing narrow strips of barks actually, then they get time to heal up actually within 5 to 6 months. If you are girdling or making wider strips of bark, then it takes a long time, 3 to 4 years for heal up. Even sometimes they become susceptible for disease pests actually because of these large wounds. So narrow strips of wound can help easy recovery of plants actually. So all these things are taken into consideration in sustainable harvesting of NTFPs. So that also is a vital aspect of SFM. And resource assessment is another tool actually, which a lot of advancement has been made using GIS and remote sensing. Then also ground surveys are done periodically actually to assess the composition of the forest areas and the structure of forest areas, the important species that are present, and which direction is moving actually. So that will give us indication for management actually practices to be modified, or what other management practices to be done, or what regeneration practice to be adopted. All those things can be taken up based on this resource assessment, periodic resource assessments. So a lot of things has already been being practiced actually in forest areas. Coming to the innovations that are already in place and that are required actually for implementation of this sustainable forest management practices, like there are areas like technological innovations, where a lot of innovations are already in place. Like in digital innovation, GIS and RS are already playing a crucial role actually in monitoring of forest practices actually, like this CDM, clean development mechanism. They depend on this this RED plus finance mechanism. They also depend on this verification through remote sensing and this GIS data actually. Then a lot of other innovation is required, like artificial intelligence. A lot of data is generated actually using this remote sensing, and AI can be a useful tool actually in the analysis of those data, in deriving meaningful information from those vast amount of data. Then a lot of product process innovations are already in place, like grading of timber, then sawmilling equipments, solar dryers, fuel efficient chullas, wood textiles. A lot of innovations are already happening actually, but a lot more needs to be done so that we efficiently utilize our forest areas for producing more products from same unit of land actually. Then biotechnical innovations. Like advanced breeding technologies are being now researched actually using genomics and DNA technologies. We are now able to select plants actually based on their genetic worth. Earlier conventional breeding techniques, they depended on selection of genotype, then putting the progeny trials. It took a long period of time actually because of the long gestation period of trees. But with the advancement of this genomic techniques and DNA techniques, we are able to reduce the breeding cycle. We are able to identify genetically superior plants and deploy them at a faster rate actually. So this type of innovation is now happening actually. Then from the social policy and institutional innovation points of view, a lot of innovation is required actually to involve local youth, women and indigenous communities. Then innovations required to bring in cross-sectoral approaches, cross-sectoral policies onto the same platform. Then we need more cooperatives actually to increase the bargaining power of small landholders actually. Then we need to increase the environmental awareness actually. That is key actually, so that behavioral change can be brought in actually, so that we can better utilize our natural resources, natural forest resources actually. Behavioral change is required actually. For that, awareness generation is key. Then from financial point of view, public and private sector finance to enhance value of forest, boost restoration efforts, increase the access to loans for smallholders. A lot of things has to happen actually. RED plus funding and carbon trading is already happening in European countries, and RED plus funding is also starting in India. We need some incentives also for smallholders, so that they get involved in conservation and protection of our forest resources, then more CSR funding is also needed actually. As I've already informed, the private sector participation is very less in forest sector because of gestation period as well as the risk involved. But some mechanisms, some innovations need to happen actually, so that more private sectors they come into play, more finance come into forest sector, so that this we move towards this sustainable forest management. So concluding, I'll say that forests and trees are very essential components actually for our agri-food systems. They cater to our economic, social, and environmental needs. But deforestation, forest degradation, and climate change posing new threats actually to agricultural productivity, and it has got a very severe consequences actually. Forests they provide essential habitat for world's terrestrial biodiversity, which is key actually for our livelihoods and resilience of our agri-food systems. We have seen how wild harvested foods are important from food and nutrition security point of view of our forest dwellers and other forest dependent communities, and also from climate change point of view, how forests are important carbon sinks actually and going to play a very crucial role in climate change mitigation. So world is now facing new challenges in the economic, social, and environmental fronts. Innovations are required actually. Innovation is the key, in fact, to sustainable manage our forest and to tackle the existing and emerging challenges. So innovations in technology, social policy, institutional, and financial sectors are needed actually, so that this concept, this emerging SFM concept can be fully implemented. We can better efficiently utilize our forest resources to meet our present need as well as the needs of the future generations. So that's all from my side actually.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Patnaik ji. Very interesting presentation where you have given various dimensions of sustainable forest management and the variations of interventions like socio-political and climatic factors, as well as foreign genetic resource conservations and ecosystem services through sustainable forest management, multiple functions. And you have also thrown the light on cross-sectoral and coherent approach is needed for effective sustainable forest management. And the role of sustainable forest management in food and nutrition security is also very clearly delineated in your presentation, as well as and you have also thrown the light on Paris Agreement. Of course, in continuation to that, at present, Baku in Azerbaijan, COP29 is also going on, wherein the governments are striving hard. They're very striving hard because a new regime has come in the North America. So where in order to shoot the interests of the present dispensation in the USA, so we have to see, we have to wait and watch for a few more days what kind of resolution will generate from that COP29 being held at Baku, Azerbaijan. And you have very clearly mentioned about afforestation, deforestation, as well as the carbon sink. It is our forestry bowl of active, our forest bowl is acting as a carbon sink. So very nice. Thank you very much. In continuation to your presentation, I will continue about. I request Patnaik ji, please be online for a few more minutes.
Yeah, sure, sir. I'll be here, sir. No problem.
If any questions comes,
Yeah.
then we'll
Yeah, sure, sir.
Hello, Raj Garu. Is it shared, this PPT?
Sir.
Is it visible? PPT. Hello,
Sir.
Share close side, madam, sir, stop.
PPT visible, is it visible PPT?
No, sir. Vastale, sir.
Close side. ఇది కాదు మేడం, సార్. షేర్ స్టాప్ అనుకుంటా. నేను చేస్తా.
Suresh? ఎందుకు ఓపెన్ పెట్టినావు బాబు? Yeah. Is the screen visible? Can I get the response from the audience? Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Hello?
It's visible now, sir.
Is the screen visible or not? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Others, please. Are you ready? All of you, are you there on board? Hello, may I get attention of all the participating officers?
Yes, sir. We are there
Yeah.
on board, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So now I will, in continuation to our respected resource person of today's webinar, Patnaik ji, has given clearly illustrated the what kind of technologies, what is the ecosystem of a sustainable forest management, what are the logistics, what are the algorithms, what are the concepts in the maintenance of the sustainable forest management. So how to take this knowledge to the farmers, real stakeholders, and we, the people working close to the different stakeholders who involved in the forest management should understand the transfer of technology concepts, the extension concepts, what way we can demonstrate these practices for the benefit of the stakeholders. Yeah, sustainable forestry practices are vital for preserving our forests, and the technology transfer plays a major role in this direction in achieving this goal by promoting adoption of innovative methods that enhance forest management and as well as conservation of the forest resources. Now, so the need for sustainable forestry practices. What is the need to follow, to advise the stakeholders to practice sustainable forestry practices means? Can anyone tell, please? May I get the attention from the audience? Do you tell something about what are the needs? Why we have to practice sustainable forestry practices? Why we have to adapt? Hello? Please respond. Here I would like to mention only three needs. So one is, as Patnaik ji already told, conserving the biodiversity. We have to follow the sustainable forestry practices. Protecting the water resources, one of the paramount important input in agriculture is the water, so which is very much preserved through forests and mitigating the climate change. These are the three aspects. So for which we have to follow the sustainable forestry practices. Now the second one. What are the challenges for adoption of the new forestry methods? Why we have to adopt new forestry methods? What are the challenges against which we are practicing those new forestry methods? Lack of awareness. The stakeholders don't have the awareness on those practices. That's why that is one of the challenge. And another challenge in adoption of new forestry methods is financial constraints. So here we require huge amounts of budget and lack of infrastructure. These are all the challenges in adoption of the new forestry methods. Methods are available, practices are available, technologies are available, but while adoption, these are the challenges. Limited knowledge, and they are very expensive technologies, and inadequate infrastructure is there in the remote areas for adoption of the new forestry methods, new sustainable forestry practices. So innovative transfer of technology approaches. So we have to follow innovative extension approaches or transfer of technology approaches from lab to land. Am I audible and equally visible? Hello? So that I am confirming.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we have to take up the pilot projects whenever we are taking any new inventions to the field level. We should not go at the mega level. First, we have to test it, the feasibility of those innovations, technologies, whether they work to the given micro situation or not. So we have to offer many training and capacity building programs to the stakeholders who are actually, as Patnaik ji has thrown one concept, joint forest management, where communities are involved, where the local people are involved, apart from the outsiders. So we have to train those people on various concepts of sustainable forest management. And the knowledge sharing networks. This is the era of networks and partnerships. So we have to build the networks within the states, within the country, within the continents across the globe. Across the globe, we have to design. We have to build the networks for sharing the knowledge, for sharing the innovations, for exchanging the ideas, through brainstorming sessions. So for testing the new technologies in real world settings, we need pilot projects, providing hands-on training to the foresters and communities in order to equip them with the required skills. We have to conduct the huge number of training and capacity building programs and facilitating collaborations. This is the era of collaborations between the countries. Next, community engagement and capacity building. We have to engage the communities. This is the only mantra. This is the a step which gives a huge benefits, dividends. We have to engage the local people, maybe self-help groups, maybe nowadays the government of India is seriously thinking to form 10,000 FPOs. So we have to engage the local FPOs. So that is the local knowledge. In order to use the local knowledge, in order to galvanize the local knowledge with our innovations, with our technologies. So we need the community's help. We have to build their capacities. So communities, we have to convert communities to take the ownership on managing the forests. So integrating the traditional practice and the local knowledge into the technology transfer strategies and empowering the communities to participate in the decision-making process. Next, leveraging the digital tools and the data analytics. As Dr. Patnaik ji has rightly mentioned, just a couple of slides before is winding the presentation. He has clearly mentioned the role of the artificial intelligence in the form of GPS, remote sensing, and all that. So we have to use the vibrancy and energy of those digital tools. And for analyzing not only for collecting the data from different parts of the forests, but we have to draw the inferences by using various artificial intelligence tools. So remote sensing, mobile applications, and data sharing platforms. They were available. They are extensively used in all the sectors. Even in our agri and allied sector also they are using. But in our forest sector also still we are using, still we have to unleash the potential of those platforms. So we can use satellite imagery and drones, which can provide data for monitoring the forest health, detecting the deforestation, and optimizing the resource management. As Patnaik ji told that every year, millions of hectares of forest is being burnt. It may not be deliberately, but because of the accidental nature accidents, lightning and all that. So it is how much has burnt, where it is burning, how we have to cope it up, how we have to combat such kind of sensational burnings happens. That data is collected through remote sensing, satellite imager pictures, and mobile applications. Many mobile applications have come. It is we have to apply for our benefit. We have to use it. We have to practice it to collect the data, real-time data especially, and sharing the data is across the stakeholders. Who are our stakeholders? We have one more slide for that. So we have to incentivize the sustainable forestry adoption. Those who are adopting the sustainable forest practices, we have to incentivize, we have to acknowledge them, we have to recognize them. So we have to give the financial incentive, we have to offer the market access to those products generated through adoption of the sustainable practices, and recognize and award them. Yeah. So overcoming policy and regulatory barriers. So there we have to streamline the regulations. As some of you have told initially, some question has come. We have to reform, we have to restructure our policies to suit to the contemporary changing issues, requirements. So many incentives have to be incorporated into the policies to promote the sustainable forest management. So streamlining the regulations, like simplifying the complex regulations and promoting transparency, which can facilitate the adoption of sustainable practices, and creating policies that support sustainable forestry, such as tax breaks for forest conservation, incentivizes positive. This kind of tax breaks definitely gives a positive outlook, positive change, and collaboration and partnerships, as I told. So scaling successful technology transfer models. Yeah, in every sector, we have to generate the success stories wherever the technology is successfully implemented and benefits were drawn by the different stakeholders. So such kind of success stories have to be published, not only in the written form, in the journals, in the magazines, local vernacular papers, but they have to be promoted in the social media. I think many of you know it, digital green. May I know how many of you know about the digital green here? Digital green is capturing the technology, local technology practiced by the farmers. Only local technologies, ITKs, were videographed, documented, and they will place in their digital platform. That is a big network, digital platform across the globe. So we have to catch hold of such kind of platforms to document the success stories which are being practiced at the local level. So replicating the best practices through success stories and investing in education and research as trainings for the future generation of the foresters and future researchers. We have to inculcate the spirit of creating new innovations, developing, designing the new technologies in the sustainable forest management, new solutions for the new problems. What is the new problem now we are encountering? Climate change effects. So how to combat it? What are the innovations? So defining extension and the technology transfer. Yes. So we have to define the extension and the technology transfer. Initially, what is our understanding on extension? What is our understanding on technology transfer? So extension is nothing but a process of dissemination of the information, skills, and technologies to the individuals and communities to improve their practices and mainly on decision making. But whereas the technology transfer is mainly focuses on transfer of not only transfer of knowledge, skills, and technologies from lab to land, that is from research stations to the end users, but enhancing them, enabling them to adopt, not only enabling them to take the decisions, but it will convince them to adopt the technologies in their farms. So benefits of this kind of technology transfer for forestry. What kind of benefits that will be accrued as a whole to the forestry sector when we communicate or disseminate a right technology to the right user at right time? So improved forest management. The overall canvas of the forest management will be changed. And enhancing the forest productivity. So Dr. Patnaik ji has told many products we will get, timber, non-timber, this and that. But how to increase the productivity matters. He also stated that we cannot increase the area, we cannot horizontally expand the forest cover. And shortly, within another 1 or 2 decades, our global population is going to reach 9 billion, beyond the propositions of our imagination. Our country population is touching 145 crores and even 150 crores. Already we have crossed China. The only solution is improving the productivity. But this kind of transfer of technology, transfer of innovations to the real-time solutions to the required end users definitely gives the dividends in terms of increasing the productivity and increasing the economic benefits. He has reiterated that financial inclusion should be there, financial benefits should be there through forest cover, through forest wealth. So this kind of economic benefits will be burgeoned and multifolded increased through transfer of technology. Next, who are the key stakeholders in our forestry technology transfer? The main stakeholders are, we will discuss who are the stakeholders and what are their roles. One is research institutions. The institute like Institute of Forest Biodiversity at Dolapalli, where Dr. Patnaik ji is working. So their responsibility is to design the new innovations, to design the ideas for the solutions. The second stakeholder is forestry agencies as such, which are working close to the forest management and forest owners. And he has also told that private people are also coming. There were places where the private people are managing and communities are managing through joint forest management. They are deemed to be considered as the forest owners. They are also one of the major stakeholders. The last one is local communities who are working, whether with power or without power, whether with legal sanctity or not having the legal powers. So the local communities are also, we have to onboard, we have to acknowledge them as the stakeholders for effective forest management. So research, the scientists working in the research institutions develop the new technologies and knowledge. And agencies will promote and implement sustainable forest practices. And forest owners adopt and implement new technologies on their own lands. And the communities will benefit from sustainable forest management and participate in decision making. Ultimately, the decision making in adoption of the technologies lies in the hands of the local communities. In fact, they will be considered as important stakeholders. Yeah. So models for forest technology transfer. There were some standard models were generated over a period of time for forestry technology transfer. So one is demonstration plats. We can conduct the demonstrations. We can conduct the workshops. Now the workshop is going on, as I told, in the Baku, Azerbaijan, COP29. That is a continental level workshop is going on. And farmer to farmer networks we have to develop. Yes, a farmer who is working close to the forest, who is utilizing, for example, a tribal community, living and their livelihood is the forest. So if we connect farmers across the geographical areas, they will share the knowledge, local wisdom. So hands-on demonstrations of new technologies have to be conducted. Interactive workshops that provide theoretical as well as the practical training on new technologies have to be organized periodically. And peer-to-peer learning and knowledge sharing among the experienced people. Next, successful case studies of forestry technology transfer. So there were many successful case studies were there in forestry technology transfer. So one of the case studies is precision forestry. Another successful case study is the forest monitoring system. The third important successful case study is the sustainable timber harvesting. So precision forestry is the one case where they have used GPS, remote sensing, data analytics. Now it is the era of big data analytics. Every field, in every sector. So in order to optimize our decision making, in order to take the valid, reasonable, workable operational decisions, so we have to go for the big data analytics. Forest monitoring systems were also evolved by usage of the satellite imagery and ground-based sensors for monitoring the forest wealth as well as tracking the changes, and adoption of the technologies that minimize the environmental impact and ensure long-term forest sustainability happens through sustainable timber harvesting. Next, barriers and challenges to forest technology transfer. There were some barriers also, and some challenges were also encountered in the process of transferring the technology in forestry sector. So financial constraints, as we discussed, lack of awareness, limited infrastructure is available, and policy barriers were also encountered in transfer of the technology with regard to the innovations in forestry sector. Next, strategies for effective forestry technology transfer. What are the main strategies? It is in continuation to the earlier slide. Strong partnerships, customized training, effective communication, as well as incentivizing the programs, collaborations, and tailoring the training programs according to the needs, interests, requirements of the local communities, and disseminating information through various communication channels, and offering financial incentives. Next, the role of policy and governance. So supporting research and so on, what is the role of the government? What is the role of the policies for effective sustainable forest management means? So they have to support research and R&D system. A robust R&D system has to be evolved, and it should function seamlessly. There should not be any curtailment in allocation of the budget, especially for the R&D system, in evolving the solutions for the problems encountered in the forestry sector. Creating a favorable regulations for all the stakeholders and enhancing capacity building. So government funding for R&D of the new technologies can drive innovation and create a pipeline of solutions. And policies that incentivize the adoption of sustainable forestry practices and promote technology. And government initiatives that support training programs. Yeah. So there were some good case studies for successful technology transfer in forestry sector through examining the effective strategies for sustainable practices in Brazil through satellite monitoring. So they have utilized satellite technology to effectively curb deforestation in Brazil. Probably you might have seen. So Brazil is the one country where large amount of area is covered under forest. So they are monitoring through satellites to curb the deforestation. And Finland is the one case study where the forest data system is maintained through big data analytics, as I told. Now it is the era of three important aspects: biotechnology, quantum computing, and big data analytics. In every sector, we have to use these three interventions. So Finland is the one country where they are using the big data analytics for their forest data management system. And the last one is Kenya is the one where agroforestry initiatives were taken in a big way, integrating the technology within the community in their projects to enhance the agroforestry in Kenya. So agroforestry we know very well. Now without forest agriculture, forestry it is a win-win situation both for forestry as well as agriculture. So agroforestry is the one concept in our agriculture university also we are popularizing it. Next, monitoring and evaluation of this technology transfer impact. So assessing the effectiveness of strategies in sustainable forestry. So we are initiating many interventions in our technology transfer. So what is the impact that is generated in forestry sector through these technology transfer initiatives? So that's why always monitoring and evaluation should be there. Monitoring is a continuous process, evaluation is a terminal process. So some of the key indicators as illustrated by Patnaik ji in his presentation. So for any intervention of technology transfer, indicators will be there to measure the impact. and feedback mechanisms were evolved. Adaptive management has to be measured. Future trends in forestry technology. Through exploring advancements for sustainable forestry practices, the future trends could be artificial intelligence, utilizing the data analytics to improve the forest management decisions and practices. This is the one thing which can bring radical visibility in every sector. Blockchain technology is one way of unleashing the artificial intelligence. This is the blockchain technology, which ensures the transparency and traceability in the entire supply chain. And the one is well-known technology is the drones, which offers enhanced surveillance and data collection capabilities for monitoring the forest health and resources. We have to extensively, rigorously and vigorously use the drones for effective surveillance of the forest management. As I told, collaborative efforts are needed for global impact. In terms of international partnerships, sharing the resources and expertise across the borders, which enhances the sustainable forestry efforts, and global networks have to be created, creating the platforms for knowledge exchange and cooperation which can facilitate innovation in forestry practices, and the public-private partnership. So public institutions alone cannot deliver the goods, cannot attempt holistically the entire sustainable forest management. It is the private sector which has till now given not much attention for this forest management. So we have to onboard private sector by hook or crook, by incentivizing, by giving some policy impetus. So this kind of public-private partnerships definitely combines the strengths of the various sectors that can lead to greater impact on sustainability of forest practices. The conclusion and call to action here is sustainable forestry through technology transfer demands collective action. It is not the responsibility of one individual like Patnaiji or the one institute or one country. It is the collective effort, collective action of all the countries across the globe that we are witnessing in the Bakur, Azerbaijan. And the journey towards a sustainable forestry is ongoing. This is a relentless journey of the sustainable management of the forest. And the technology transfer plays a crucial role in this endeavor of sustainable forest management. It is the technology that drives the action. So action is reflected in the form of sustainable forest management. So always we have to evolve the new technologies for the new challenges that are being encountered in the forest sector. So by effectively transferring technology and fostering collaboration, we can unlock the potential of sustainable forestry practices for the benefit of our planet and even for the benefit of our future generations. Thank you very much. Yeah, now the session is open for discussion. So you can also give some inputs for our presentations. We request the participants, please. Hello? If anyone.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the question is for Patnaik, sir.
Yeah, Patnaik ji, are you available?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm available.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
sir. Sir, thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening presentation, and it has been inspiring to all of us. And one small question, sir, like whether this precision silviculture or precision forestry can be generalized not only for research but also for collaboration and adoption from the farming community. So if so, what sort of initiatives can be taken at the field level, mainly for demonstration?
Yeah, precision forestry can be achieved through drone technology. Drones have been introduced actually, Joy. So it can give us uh, precision about area, precision about species composition of the crop. Then the areas where gaps are there, where regeneration can be taken up, or any other disturbance that can be very precisely located actually. So what we need to have is that drone technology, then some backend softwares actually, which can help us uh, also monitor actually from time to time actually, whatever data is generated, it can be monitored by flying the drones again and again those areas, then decision can be taken actually based on those information that is generated. So yeah, it's possible in forestry actually. Already agriculture sector, they are well advanced actually, Joy. But in forestry, I think in wildlife management, it's being used actually. Like camera traps are kind of precision forestry actually. They are localizing the animals. Then they are using that radio collars. That is also again a precision forestry technology. Drones,
sir.
I think, yeah, drones, I think somewhere it might be already introduced, but needs some more effort, actually, more effort from this forest managers, actually. Yeah, I think it can be done, and it needs the technology already available, actually. Only to bring that technology into our working sphere.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Extensively used in Brazil
Yes, sir.
to monitor the extent of deforestation.
Sir.
That's the damage, in what form the damage is inflicted to the forestry cover in Brazil. They are extensively using
Okay.
South America, the South America continent especially.
Okay.
In fact, sir, recently in one of our projects, actually, we had used drones to map the deviation of this rivers, actually, Joy. Like over the course of years, they deviate their path, actually. Then that creates a problem in delineating the high flood level. So these drones, they could give us very clear-cut pictures, actually, over the years, how they have deviated, actually, Joy. So based on that, this measures can be taken to do embankments all along the rivers. Actually. So in one such projects we had recently used actually this drone. So that is also precision forestry.
Even remote sensing satellite imagery also, they are extensively used.
Yeah, high resolution imagery is now available actually. So based on data, this forest planning can be done actually. Earlier, they were very coarse and large scale maps used to be there. But now paid maps, paid imageries are available, which are very high resolution actually.
Sir, one more doubt, sir. Like you were talking about working plans and all in forest management. So can we, project this data imagery, satellite data imagery during our working plan, and can we locate the data in the initial stage itself?
Yeah, it is possible actually. It is possible actually. But from imageries, you cannot talk about species composition. Only the
Okay.
density aspects you can know. Then there are areas, specific areas that can be estimated. All those things can be done. But so far as the species composition or identification of species concerned, that is not possible till now actually, using
Okay.
imagery.
Okay.
But using drones, it may be possible actually. Using some kind of sensors, you can identify or distinguish species in forest areas.
Did
So that
IFT
research is
conduct
on.
any research, sir, on that?
No, not yet actually, Joy. But we are now using imageries actually, Joy, like high resolution imageries. We
Okay.
are trying to incorporate in our research actually. But drones, only one project actually, externally funded project, we had used to map this river banks actually, and how they
Okay.
have deviated over the course of years. Those things we delineated actually.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I think we are very much enlightened with your presentation, and you have thrown a various new concepts to us, like the various silvicultural tools which can be used for sustainable forest management and forest resource assessment techniques, which can be applicable, and the various collaborations which we have think it forward for the better forest management.
Yeah,
So
my
where
pleasure,
our
actually, my
research
pleasure.
institutions and extension agencies play a key role.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nikita. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Topic: biodiversity conservation, soil health management, carbon sequestration, global warming, climate change. Okay, I think you have given some food for thought through your postings in the chat box. We appreciate. And I request all the, before giving the vote of thanks to our expert, we have posted a link in our chat box. I request all the participants, please attempt a few questions in that Google form. In that Google form, there were few questions only. Maybe I think 6 or 7 questions. Please attempt, so that we will be getting an understanding on this webinar. Okay, what are your impressions on understanding the topic delivered through this webinar? So that you have to put your impressions in that Google form. I think I am clear. Please go to the chat box, click it, and it may not take more than few seconds. Okay. So I request all the participants, please attempt it. Anyhow, thank you very much, Dr. Swapnendu Patnaik ji,
Welcome, sir.
who is working
My
at
pleasure, sir.
Institute of
Thanks for giving
Institute
me
of
this opportunity actually. Participation.
In fact, we are very much blessed, fortunate that a person of your eminence attended this webinar as an expert resource person to deliver the very apt topic, which is very much in the midst of the high level, rather I can say the high octane meeting is going on in the Baku, Azerbaijan, where their threadbare analysis is going on about how to mitigate the effects of the climate change, how to bring down the temperature not to cross 2 degrees Celsius. Of course, 1.5, it is planned in the Paris Agreement, it is crossed, but at least now they are contemplating not to cross the threshold level of 2 degrees Celsius. So further, they are also planning, one of the point of discussion is the forestry, how to increase the forestry covers. So we are very fortunate that we are conducting this webinar at this thick of discussion at the global level. And Patnaik ji has given, as Dr. Nikita has rightly told, the canvas of the forest management, the variations of forest management, the innovations in forest management, the role of stakeholders in forest management. What are the challenges? What are the different tools and techniques? How to take forward? In nutshell, He has given a roadmap for the sustainable forest management for the officers who are attending for this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. And we look forward for your collaboration, for your cooperation, for your partnership, and we may utilize your expertise in future activities of our Extension Education Institute, Southern Region, Rajendranagar, Hyderabad. I also thank all the participants, those who are attending very keenly, rapidly, and those, especially those who have posted their questions in the chat box for seeking the solutions. So with this, we have made we will generate a report based on the presentation given by the Patnaik ji, as well as the transfer of technology dimensions also we will include it, and we will use it. We will circulate to all the participants, those who have attended. Thank you. Thank you very much to one and all.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar to all the participants. Bye-bye. See
Yeah,
you
yeah.
again, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Nikita. A special thanks to you also for your keen
Thank you so much, sir.
involvement and keenly looking at the flow of the presentation and also getting some insights and solutions for some of your doubts. Thank you. Rajga,
It's my pleasure, sir. Thank you,
request
sir.
all of you, please attempt that Google form. Otherwise, the webinar is incomplete. Please
Sure,
attempt
sir.
it.
This will be open
So
for
that
few more minutes, sir.
it will be open only for a few more minutes. After that, it will be ceased. After that, it will be terminated. Please click on it, attempt it, post it.
So I'll